We're just two girls on a couch today.
Exactly, with a camera right in front.
Two girls, two game dev girls on a couch with a camera. Jenny, how are you?
I am good, well rested,
Good.
catching up on sleep.
Good. We are coming to you live from DICE in beautiful Las Vegas. There's this beautiful vista in front of us as we record. So, how did you get here? How did you get to game
by airplane?
By airplane. How did you? I want to know like all the nitty-gritty details of your journey into game development. When did you decide you wanted to do game development? How did you get from where you wanted to go to where we are today, which is the creator of Consume Me, which is nominated for many, many awards and has already won many.
All right, so here's the entire story. Growing up, I wasn't actually really into video games, but my younger brother and my dad were, and they played a lot of games like Guild Wars 2, Age of Mythology, and that actually drove my mom nuts. Like she like they would like stay up late all night playing these games together. And I don't want to go into too much like family trauma or whatever, but it gave me this, it left me feeling like games are essentially a waste of time, because I kind of took on like I don't know, like the way my mom felt about games, I kind of adopted that too. So, yeah, I mean, I played like a few games growing up. I really liked Zoombinis, and I played like Everything Girl. And then my dad would try to get me to play games, so he'd buy like all the consoles, and and I liked Wii and like a few Nintendo games. But I guess gaming wasn't really like a deep part of me, and and then I guess in college, if you played Consume Me, I was really determined to get into pre-med, and I always joke that I was too stupid to become a doctor. And that like first semester of college was like a huge disaster. I was taking like so many pre-med classes, and I ended up having to take the spring semester of my freshman year off because I just couldn't handle everything. Oh, wow. And during that period of time, I started learning how to program, because it turns out I think programming is easier than math, like class.
Math sucks.
It does suck. And then coming back to that, I came back to NYU, like my undergrad, and I randomly decided to take like a intro to game I think it was called Games 101. So it was like an art history class for video games. And in that class, we were like exposed to many different genres. Like each week there was like a lecture on, a specific genre. And in that final week, there was a lecture on indie games, and that lecture I think really resonated with me. I was like, oh, like, I don't really like traditional video games, but indie games, like, oh, this really speaks to me. And I think I was also surrounded by like, the first and second original class of the Game Center. So I was like, wow, I really like the people here and I like what they're doing. And, if you're familiar with NYU, I think they do kind of have this very like everyone is an indie game dev, and that I think is what like led me into making video games, game jams, this small tight-knit community, and By the way, am I supposed to be looking here, or I should just be
You
looking
can look
at you?
wherever
Because
you
I'm
like.
I'm looking here. Like,
You can look wherever you like.
all right, cool. And yeah, I think like the reason why I got into games is like I've always loved drawing and art from like a very young age, you know. But I think like the fact that you have to test something out and there's this like very iterative process of making a game like keeps me committed and keeps me wanting to like finish the prototype or idea. And I think that's like very different from, say, when I was younger, I'd like staple a bunch of paper together and then like start drawing like a whole story, you know, from like page 1 to like the end, and I would always give up because, you know, I just think like creating something where you're like doing it page by page, it's like very exhausting. And I think just the process of making a game is like you can't build it like that. You have to, I don't know, like you have to like kind of create a skeleton and make sure that whole loop works, and then you go back and like refine that loop. And I think that is like, you know, it just felt like right, and I could just keep doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a totally different topic, but I don't know, hopefully that gives you like a little bit of insight of like how I got into games. If you want me to expand in any more directions, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it like? Because I got into games like I kicked open a dog door and like scurried in. Like
Yeah.
I was not professionally trained or didn't go to school for it. So what is it like? What is it like to be like instructed? Like for game, like what is that curriculum like? What's that work like?
I hope this is not going to be like mean to the university.
You can be me.
Okay. I mean, I honestly don't even. I mean, I genuinely appreciate it, like everything that I went through. I feel like I was there at the right time around the right people. You know, like that's like something I want to express gratitude for. But I don't know. A lot of the time, I think I'm like a huge fraud. Like I don't think I actually went to art school. I don't feel like I had actual like technical training in a lot of stuff. I feel like the thing that the game center really emphasized is like, you know, having like kind of being able to like express your ideas with like the limited tool set that you have. And, you know, the whole program started as a graduate program, right? And I think maybe this is why I feel like I don't have enough, because I ended up in this program like in my junior year, I think, of undergrad, you know, so I didn't have like a prior undergrad degree in anything. You know, I didn't specialize in anything. So I feel like just going into game design without any kind of like, this is my specialty and this is what I'm useful and I can offer, right? Made it feel like, oh, you know, I does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
It does.
So I mean, that could just be like a personal insecurity of mine. And yeah, I don't know. I can't compare what it's like to other game development degrees, but I do feel like just being in the space with like people who are actively making stuff. Like my professor is like Bennett Foddy, you know, and yeah, and he's like a huge I feel like he had a huge impact on my work, and you know, being able to like work alongside of him and like pop into his office, you know, so casually was like really rewarding, you know. And I'm not saying that like you can do that in other universities, but I think I noticed that like I feel like I realized how much I valued that once the pandemic hit and once I couldn't access that space anymore, you know, because I was just like I graduated undergrad in 2017, and then I worked on my own projects and then adjuncted at the same time. And then in 2020, and then, you know, while adjuncting, me and AP would just like be in that little alcove of like all the adjuncts, and like we'd like chat with everyone who was also like making stuff, you know. And then when I finally moved an hour away from the university, I was like, wow, like it is really lonely, you know. Like I don't know, the pandemic definitely had like changed how I work. And I don't think I figured out like the right way or like the ultimate way to work just kind of in isolation. Um, but yeah, just like being around people was like super good. And then class wise, I don't know, maybe like I also have like complaints or not complaints, but like just thoughts about this because because I got like into ballet, right? And I like think about it and think about how like, you know, how ballet is just like a very old art form, right? And I don't know if you're like super into ballet and stuff, but like things that maybe just the random person might know, it's like an art form that children usually start doing when they're very little, right? And there are like schools devoted to teaching this art form. And this art form has been around for so long that you know, they figured out ways to optimize teaching this, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like video games as an art form, it hasn't been around for that long.
No.
And I think about like, oh, what would be like a way to optimize teaching how to make this stuff? And I really think about like how I'm learning ballet and how that could apply to game design because, you know, in my background of learning how to make video games is very much like you don't have a lot of tools at your disposal. So the idea kind of has to carry that, you know? And then as a result, sometimes I feel like you can't really go into like the craft or like the technical bits, you know? And another thing from my history is like indie game development. A lot of it is like on one person. You know, we weren't really taught to work in big teams, right? A lot of the thesis projects or like the capstone projects, it's like a lot of people chose to just work independently or in like extremely small groups. So I also felt like I didn't know how to really collaborate with people, right? So yeah, I feel like taking ballet class and just seeing how people get good at that and how it's like a very different sort of psychology from making independent video games was very eye-opening. Also, the fact that when I got into games, I was like maybe like a lot of the time when I walked into the room, I was the youngest female in the room.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, like I was like often in the room with like a bunch of the majority male grad students, you know, or male professors. And that's what it was like at GDC. Like I was, I think 20 or 19 when I went to my first GDC and we had like a game that we were going to showcase at this club for like a party. And like the owner of the club had to like walk like 3 feet behind me the whole time because I was like technically not allowed to be in that space, you know? So
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Can I ask you questions?
Yes.
Like, what's your experience like that? I don't know if it's like just me rambling on and stuff.
In dev?
Yeah. Like,
oh God.
What was your? Yeah.
So I unfortunately like dive bombed into AAA, which was like fortunately. I say unfortunately because I feel okay. I'm gonna back up.
Yeah.
I did not go to college for game rating. I didn't go to college for anything. I kind of self-taught myself everything, and I started out in media. I was the dreaded influencer. I kind of did like I wrote for like GameSpot for a while, and then I was part of an all-female game podcast called What's Good Games, and I always knew I wanted to go into development, and I started out working on some indie projects. I worked with the really cool guys at Young Horses, and then the Mulaka folks as well. And I thought I was going to like do indie stuff, and then an opportunity arose, and I was poor, so I took it to be a narrative designer on Call of Duty.
Okay.
And that was a choice. It was a crash course in, to put it just so bluntly and succinctly, how to not work with cross-disciplinary groups. Like it was a really big, shock because I was used to like these tiny teams and I was used to certain levels of communication. But when you get into a like franchise machine, like Call of Duty, where it's annualized, so it comes out every year, and there's like, it has to make the billions dollars. The shareholders are breathing down your neck. Like, and I too is in a mostly male environment. It really kind of taught me what I did not want to do in my own career, and the kind of teams that I sought out, and the kind of work that I wanted to do. And like, once you survive that environment, you can survive everything, which is what I was told. And it is very, very true. And I just kind of have taken that into every other space I've been in, which is like, oh, I was treated like this and I didn't like it, so I'm going to make sure I treat people like this. Or this piece of the production pipeline was really chaotic because they did XYZ. So like, from a narrative perspective, here's what I can do to make sure this pipeline doesn't go to shit. Like,
Yeah.
which is what it did. I think that answers the question, but it was kind of like a dive bomb, basically.
I feel like I mean, it sounds really like valuable to get exposed to like what the dynamics are like, what the sorts of people you might encounter are like. Like, I'm not trying to like invalidate your experience, but I'm like,
You're
oh,
right, though, yeah.
I kind of wish I had that, because I really have no clue. It's like, I feel like I've been living in like a bubble, you know. I do feel super fortunate to work on Consumi and actually like finish it and release it, but I don't know what it's like to work alongside like other people in like an office environment. I feel like
Being in an office sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, I hear that.
sucks.
I hear that from my friends. Yeah, like, I want to leave. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I'm still like curious what that hierarchy is like, and what you know what I mean. I just cannot imagine navigating that, because for so long it was mostly just me and AB, you know, on Zoom calls and like trying to figure things out, and it somehow magically worked. I mean, not magically, but like, you know,
game dev is kind of like magic.
I guess.
The idea of technology indistinguishable from magic. I feel like game dev is very much that. Something that I think you on Consumi in your experience actually is way more beneficial than let's say the current. We are in the year of Luigi 2026. In the current state of AAA, very much, if you are a writer or an artist or someone who is hired onto a project, you are executing someone else's vision. And it's, and the vision is not just, I had this idea, I want to tell this story, or I want this experience. It's, the studio head and the publisher and or shareholders had a conversation, and they want to make something like this because this is popular right now, or we're making something in like an extraction shooter. This is the genre. And then by the time it gets to someone even at my like level, so like I am currently like a lead writer on a project. So even at my level, I'm not in any of the seats where the big choices get made. I kind of inherit, this is the overarching vibe, and here are the tools that we have, and you have to make something with this vibe in the tools, and you get to put yourself into it like you do, but it's part of a greater machine. And like, I'm a former theater kid, I love group projects, so like I love that. But with Consumi, you were able to like, this was all you, like all the DNA was from you. And I'm actually really curious about like the moment itself when you came up with the first idea for what eventually became Consumi.
Yeah. Well, in high school, I definitely went. I experienced disordered eating.
Yeah.
Like, that was definitely something that I was struggling with a lot, and I guess I came up with the idea. So I graduated high school in 2012, and then like the idea of Consumi came to me in like 2015. So it was like 3 years after the whole. Okay, maybe like 4 or 5 years after like the worst part of like disordered eating. And I was just like still thinking about it. And I was also surrounded by like people making personal work, like Nina Freeman. I don't know if you're familiar.
Nina, yes.
Yeah, like her work deeply has like a huge impact on what I make and what kind of stories I want to tell. And she was also like in this New York game scene, so I saw that she was making these like very personal stories or personal video games, and I was like, oh, like I want to do that. I want to share my story too. And I was telling you about like the indie games lecture that we had at the very end, and I think I was like exposed to Lucas Pope's Papers, Please.
Incredible work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, oh, whoa, like I didn't realize that you can literally build a game that simulates what it's like to let people into the country by stamping something on their papers, on their documents. And I'm like, wait, like that seems like I could make a video game about anything. And, I was reflecting on how I don't know, no one should do this at home. No one should like calorie count. Like it totally
No, I agree.
destroyed,
Yeah.
like my relationship to hunger and how I felt. But I was like, oh, this feels like a basis for video games, like numbers, like feeling like I failed at this, this game that I played with myself, and I was looking at like these old journal entries that I kept as a high schooler and looking at like how I track all my food and all my calories.
Oh.
And and I was like, would that be like a compelling story to tell? Like maybe, and that idea just like stuck to me. And I don't know, once I have an idea for something, I think it's like hard for me to let go. So this ballet game is definitely going to come out someday.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but it just kept coming back and I was like, I want to tell my story. Maybe part of it is like maybe like I can process this trauma or something, but I feel like it's an important story to tell. It was like the most important thing that happened to me in my life,
Yeah.
So I think that was the moment, flipping through the journal entries and then maybe like having an assignment where we were like forced to write some kind of like create some kind of PowerPoint of like, pitching a game, and I wanted to like make something about my experience of like having disordered eating in high school. Yeah.
So subject matters like that are like can be very, very triggering for a lot of people. So like I know like I identified really strongly with Consume Me. I had, my parents don't listen to this podcast, so it does not matter. Like old white Catholic boomer mom in New England who was very much, like I came from this really yuppie area of Connecticut where everyone looked like Stepford Wives is set in the town that I grew up.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone has to look a certain way and be a certain way and do a certain way if you're a woman, and I didn't. So my mom, very similar to your mom, was very much like, you got to watch it. Like we're gonna restrict you. You have to write everything down. And so for me, like triggering does happen, but I was able to really identify and like really, really, really like mesh with your material in a really strong way. So when you're developing it, like how do you manage your own, like, yes, you're processing your trauma, but how do you process it and then create this game without kind of like falling back into that darkness? Like how do you manage those feelings while you're actively like recreating them,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know like if I have specific steps. I do think it was also a timing thing.
Yeah.
I think I also was at a point where I'm like, it did happen sort of recently, but I do think I have enough distance where I don't think I'm going to slip back into like the calorie counting mindset, I don't think it was like an active thing that I was like that was in my mind,
Sure,
it just felt like, oh, this feels like something I can talk about and share about without potentially like relapsing. And I think it's just like an internal kind of like, yeah, like that feels right. There were other parts of the game that I do feel like I felt extremely nervous about sharing, like the whole final chapter, like the whole religious revelation part. Like I don't know, that's still like very complicated and feels weird to talk about, and not many people want to like talk about it with me. But I don't know. I mean, maybe I just have
you have distance.
Yeah, distance, and I also trauma dump, and I'm just very open to. So I don't know. I just feel like all these things, they're like at the core, it's like a human experience that I think people resonate with, like, sure, like I've seen like Steam reviews where like some guys like, yeah, I didn't think this game would like speak to me or anything. I'm like a 40-something-year-old white guy, but like, oh, I really actually like this game a lot because I found myself in the character. And I don't know, I just feel like I see these things that happen in my life and your life and anyone's life, and there's like a thread of like truth and relatability, and that's just like the core of being human, especially in this society, you know, like the pressure of like you put on yourself and what people put on you. You know, I don't know if that really answered your question.
It did. Part of what, so like one of the things about Consumi that I really enjoy is how all of the different things that she has to do, the gameplay, or like, for example, balancing the food on her plate. Like that, I think, when I realized what the mechanic was, it was literally balancing, took me out. Like I was just like, this is so like, this is it. Like the mini games that you've chosen to go with this specific act are like so beautifully chosen, because they're almost like they're like an allegory of themselves while also being the act itself. So how did you choose, like how did you pair up those mini games with the basically the hardship you wanted your player to go through, like the mental exercise you wanted them to go through?
Oh my God, I feel like you're giving me too much credit. It was more just like I took this, you know, I took a class that was like prototyping one game a week, and Bennett Foddy taught it, right? And he'd give us a theme and then we'd have to make a game about it. And I think the whole purpose of that class was to basically develop like a tool kit of like reusable scripts and like art and sound effects that you could just plug in and like kind of make an idea into a video game very quickly, you know? And I guess thematically I started thinking like, oh, what if like all these themes somehow apply to everyday life? You know, I still had the idea of Consumi like looming in the back of my head, and I was like, I don't know how to make a big video game, you know? But I do feel like I could make small games. So I think like the mini game format, that was great for that class structure. And I don't think there was that much thinking involved. It was just more like, oh, okay, like there's like a theme. I don't even remember the themes, but I did come up with like the food Tetris mini game and like the yoga mini game, and I don't know, a lot of in the makeup one through that class. And I guess I just thought about, what do I do in everyday life? And I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have like really concrete answers. It's just like a feeling, you know?
This is a good answer.
Okay,
Like, so
it's like intuitive a little bit. Yeah.
It sounds like a very, very intuitive process.
Yeah.
Did you also, when you were kind of coming up with or thinking about, I want to talk about the art style and the music.
Sure, yeah.
But the art style too, like very much to me conveys, like, even just looking at it, I feel very much like I am a teenage girl. Like it's all aesthetically like cohesive. So how did you settle on that art style as well?
Like that was also not something I thought about.
Okay.
But I guess if I were to give an answer, I do think that art style came out of that prototyping class. So I think like a rule that I follow when making art for prototypes or even for games is I limit myself to like a very limited color palette, right? So in Consumi, there are a lot of like oranges and like warm tones and pinks and like yellowy greens and creams. And I was like drawn to those colors. So I would just I'm lazy. I would just like keep reusing those colors. And I also feel like when I do things, I like I don't know. I ended up using just the pencil tool in Photoshop because I'm like, oh, there's so many different brushes in Photoshop, you know? That's like really exhausting to think about how to like plug in a million colors and a million brushes, you know? So I really like constraint. And I think I just applied those two rules, like just use the pencil tool and then just use the 5 limit color palette and stick to those. And I think that's really the basis for the art style. It's just eliminating decision, because I think I have a tendency to overthink, and I know that overthinking does nothing good to me. So I love just, you know, like you turn off your brain and you just use the same thing. And I think that was really the basis for the art style in Consumi. Obviously, in 2022, we hired my friend Kelly, and they added so much to the art in the game, you know, but we communicated through like, just use the pencil tool and then like never use a brush size that's less than 2 pixels, you know, because I think this is also just like intuition, but it was very cool to
Yeah.
communicate like, here's just some rules that like you have to follow, otherwise it's going to diverge into something that doesn't feel like the game. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah, yeah.
I did an interview last year with Remy Sue and Pinky Lee from Sunset Visitor about 1000 Times Resist.
Yeah.
Incredible game. And they talked about designing within constraints
Yeah.
and like giving that, I think at the time, because they were all performers and then they became game developers. So their constraint was, we have a limited kind of knowledge of this tool that we are now using. So we have these very specific constraints and rules to design in. So it sounds like for you very much the, pulling back, like drilling down, not like, more is not more.
Definitely.
More is not more.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot going on in Consume Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't control myself, and the scope just loves, it's just so easy to like have an idea and then want to squeeze it in,
I do.
Yeah.
So you worked on this game for about 10 years.
Yeah.
We're talking about scoping. So what was that like when were you deciding what mini games to add, what to take away? Was there anything that, you really loved that you maybe had to like scrap? Like how did you go about refining that experience?
Oh, it was like butting heads with AP like all the time. I mean, I don't know how he put up with me, and I don't expect him to want to work with me again. Even though he's always like, "Oh no, we're gonna work again," and I'm like, "You probably don't want to," because it was like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's also like just it was like really challenging, and I think there wasn't a blueprint to making Consume Me. So a lot of the time it felt like just walking blindly in the room and trying to find like the exit, and God, wait, what was the question? Like
designing within constraints and how you scoped over 10 years, like your
scoped,
decisions.
yeah.
Like
I mean, I feel like I don't think I have. Okay, so if I were to do it again, I would definitely make sure that we had the entire story in place and because we did not do that. We had no idea what the freaking ending was. We just had we had like 10 minutes in the beginning of the game and we pitched it and we got funding and it was like, wow, a dream come true. Like we can make our, a game with like actual like money, and the idea of like, oh, how is this game going to end? Like we didn't know for many years. We were just like putting it away.
Putting it off?
Yeah. And it was like horrible. Yeah, like we didn't know and we just kept on being like, no, let's work on other stuff, And then as for the core of the game, it's like we had this compelling initial 10 minutes, which is honestly very similar to what you play in the game. Like the first 10 minutes of the game is kind of untouched. But as for like the whole systems management game where there's like free time and you're figuring out what you're going to do during the week, that was not in our pitch. Like we also spent like years trying to figure out what that was going to look like. Because I don't really feel like either of us had designed anything that complicated and big. And to make a game like Consume Me, you kind of need all the mini games and you need to have like an idea of where everything is going to go. But for so much of it, it was like blank. So it was very miserable to work on this. And I think that's why it took so long. And for the next project, I'm not going to make that mistake again, But I don't know, we're stupid. And I started working on Consume Me at like age, like full time, like age. I got the funding in 2019, so I was 25 years old. And I had very limited, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was making tiny little projects. I didn't know what it looked like to make one big thing from beginning to end. And nobody really told us how to do it. Like, honestly, like AP, I leaned so much on him, obviously. Yeah. But he didn't ever work on a project like that for so long. And he didn't have to deal with someone like me who would be like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Because, like, making games prior to that was just, like, little, like, quick, fun assignments, where it was like, once I'm done with the idea, I'm done with it forever. I don't have to come back and see this thing when I don't want to.
You don't have to look at it again.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was this psychological thing of like just honestly just growing up and just like, like I think at that point in my career, what got me there was, like a cute little idea that I was able to express in a prototype. It was like very charming and like like those gifs spoke to people, but I didn't know how to make a big game, and I wasn't disciplined, and I didn't have those things you need to actually like see the project into the end. So I think a lot of my journey, which might not align with like other people's journey, is like I needed to just develop like the skill of showing up, you know? And it's like very boring,
Yeah,
but it was so crucial to me.
Yes.
You know?
The skill of showing up.
Yeah.
I'm going to phrase it that way from now on. I feel like that is such an important lesson, especially for those of us that have, you know, multiple projects that are maybe working on personal projects that are working on something without funding. I think it's also really hard to motivate yourself to work on something when you're not getting paid to work on it.
Yeah.
Guilty. But I think a lot about, I've been thinking a lot about the keynote you gave yesterday at DICE. So for those of you who are not at DICE, Jenny gave this incredible keynote talking about working on Consume Me, and you have been very, very open about your funding struggles and where you are now. And I think that this is such an important conversation that we are not having around our individual funding struggles, because I feel like everyone wants to be like, oh, this game won all these awards and is super popular. The creator must be rich. They must have millions of dollars now, and they can like retire, or like they can go in their fancy penthouse, or they fund their next game, or do whatever. And I think that is such like a AAA mentality. And also, you know, we had Claire Obscura Expedition 33 coming out last year, where it sold gangbusters, and everyone is assuming now that like everyone who worked on the game is rich. Pretty sure that's not the case. So I would love to dig into your journey, since you have been so open and honest about this, because I think it's really important, because I think we should pay creators more money, pay game devs more money, give people more funding, because the state of funding in this industry is nuts right now.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, I would love for you to tell that story for
like
our audience.
I think I'm actually extremely fortunate, like with everything that had happened. Like I went to an extremely amazing like undergrad, and I did not have to I didn't have student loans, you know, and I didn't have
Congratulations.
Like I feel very fortunate that I was able to just be done with school and then get to kind of mess around and make little things.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I was not in that situation, my whole mindset would shift. I'd be like finding a job and make sure I could like pay for everything, you know? So I feel like I am extremely fortunate, but it's like messed up that, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. This is just like a thought I had, but I kind of see this in people where like when they're in their like 20s, they kind of like make really good art. And then when they get into their 30s, they're like, their minds, I'm thinking it's like, oh, it's time to pay rent and actually be practical and live in this world. You know, you can't just go fuck around and keep making what you want unless you have access to money and not have to worry about it. And that's like the majority of artists, I think. You know? Yeah. And your time is like so valuable, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot of conversations in the game writing community about how, again, I mentioned earlier that for a lot of us, we're executing someone else's vision. And so we talk a lot about the way you stay fresh is you make something for yourself.
Yeah.
However, the time you have to make that thing for yourself is after, you know, you've clocked out of the day job and you've paid your bills and, you know, fed your children or your pet and washed the dishes or, you know, done your taxes, whatever the hell adult shit you have to do. And then that little sliver of time left over is what you have. And a lot of us don't have the energy to do anything in that time. And so it doesn't happen.
Yep.
So I actually really, really agree with this. I feel like as we get older, our ability to, or not older, but like the weight of the world comes in and you kind of don't have the bandwidth for whimsy.
That's
anymore.
So true. Yeah.
And you kind of have to seek it out yourself.
Yeah. Or you have to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
You have to like right now, I feel so guilty of not nurturing my friendships right now because in like this period of my life, so like towards the end of releasing Consume Me, we were kind of done with the game and I was like, wow, like, you know, I'm just gonna kind of enjoy, you know, and I was also naive. I'm like, yeah, like Consume Me's gonna be okay. Like we've won awards, blah, blah, blah. Like maybe I can chill out, you know? So I spent a lot of time like making friends in ballet and just like really like I don't know, being like a human again, you know? And now I don't think I have that bandwidth anymore. I'm like, oh no, like I do have enough money to like kind of prototype this ballet game for like maybe a year or something. But I need to get on that. And I also have to like make sure I do everything else in my life, like clean the apartment and make sure my dogs are taken care of. And like, you know, I love ballet, so that's my huge hobby, you know? Like when am I gonna have time to like see my friends? And I don't know, like it's like a Frankenstein way of living.
Yeah, it's like you're
You know?
you're single-minded. You have this thing that you have to do, and that takes over all else.
Yeah, but then like I look at myself at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't have any breathing room for anything. Like I don't have time to just, I feel like every single moment it's like I should be doing something because it requires time. Like my skincare routine, my makeup routine, that takes up time. You know, sometimes I'm like way too tired to just go back home and I like will want to like just pass out and fall asleep.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh no, like you have to do it. You have to like put in the 20 minutes to like do your lymphatic drainage massage.
Yeah.
Like otherwise you're not going to see results. And it's like, I don't know, I just feel like the days get shorter and shorter and I don't know. I don't have like a solution for this. I mean, like it'd be nice to just for everyone to find like just have infinite access to money because I kind of feel like like that should be so great.
Capitalism has ruined everything.
Yeah. But yeah. I don't know.
That's a great answer. It makes me think of, it's so funny because in Jennifer Svedberg Yen's talk yesterday, she talked about how enriching your life outside of writing makes your writing better. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, when is my life outside of writing? I feel like it's
do you
like,
think it's just
what do we do?
Work and then your side projects? What is your life like?
Oh God. Well, it's the same. So I have the great fortune to work with a couple of really incredible teams right now and got some secret stuff in the pipeline and whatnot. Again, I feel like in games where the industry is right now, we are always looking into our individual future to make sure that like we have work and we're making money. Like, again, I totally agree with you that I feel like everyone, like if we all had something like universal basic income, I feel like none of us in this industry would be like on blood pressure medication and like, you know, taking an edible before you walk into your pitch meeting because there's so much riding on it. I maybe did that. Couple times. But it's because for us, like there's like the stakes are so high and the stakes unfortunately include like livelihood, which is quite a stake that you can't really like say no to. And like, again, like you, I'm very fortunate to have friends and colleagues that are also in games who understand like, oh, sorry, I disappeared for 3 months. Like I had a deadline and I didn't talk to anyone, but like my husband and my dog and like, that's it.
Yep.
And it's like no harm, no foul. I was also on a deadline. I didn't talk to anyone. But then like, you know, I come to these shows and people are like, how are you? I haven't talked to you since this conference last year. And I'm just like, like you let a year of your life go by and you're not connecting with people. So it's definitely a delicate balance. I also don't have an answer for it other than just like, sometimes just let yourself fall apart and go like be a gremlin with your friends. But it's definitely difficult to hang out with people who are not in games.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's not weird, but it's just like, you know, I don't want to talk about, they want to know. Like, I don't know if you get this. They were like, oh, how's your game? Tell me about it. Like you won awards. Tell me about it. And you're kind of like, are you like, I don't want to talk about it? Or are you like, yes?
No, this is so funny because I actually feel like, so aside from my team, like they're like, specifically like AP and Kelly, like they're so close to me, you know, like I love them so much. But outside of that, I don't actually feel like I'm super close to, I don't think I have that many game friends. I mean, maybe I used to because I went to like more of these kind of events and then like, you know, had more of those friends. But then I actually think like when I moved away from the game center, I think I sought out friendships that were specifically not games because I didn't want to like have that be part of I feel like I just didn't want to like promote that as like who I was. I feel like to making Consumi, like I really needed to separate myself, like the human Jenny from the Jenny making this video game, because for so long my identity and how I valued myself was tied to being an indie game developer, you know? And I think like that's not mentally, I don't think it's sustainable. It's not good for you. You shouldn't like, you know, see yourself, and I'm talking to myself, like as this like I'm thinking about how to phrase it. I think, yeah, I was very fortunate early on in my career, and I feel like I kind of rose to this state where, you know, I obviously got funding for Consumi, and I got like a somewhat like big social media following from indie games, and people knew my name and that kind of stuff. But I think that was like a jail, you know, like I think, and right now, I mean, if people watch this and they also watch my daily TikToks, they'll probably think I'm going through like a mental breakdown. But I do that because I feel like you should be willing to not tie yourself to how people observe you. And I can't say if it works or not, because I don't know, maybe behind my back, lots of people are like, is she having like some kind of crisis? But deep down in my mind, I'm like, I was so tied to social media giving me external validation that I used that to develop Consumi for a while. I was like, oh, I guess I gotta make a new mini game because that's what gets likes. People love like funny little like jokey moments, you know, but that's actually, if you want to make a big ass game that is like 10 hours long, most of development is not going to be those GIFs, you know, and you can't spend all your time making the little funny GIFs because then at the end, you're not going to have anything. Maybe you'll have a collection of like funny GIFs and like 100,000 social media, like, followers or whatever. But like, I don't know. I guess I also want to make a real video game.
Yeah.
And you have to like identify what those goals are. So
yeah.
I don't know. What was the original thing?
That was we were talking about how we don't have lives because we're game developers.
Yeah, but then also like how I think through these 10 years I had to change my relationship to social media, and that extends to like how I'm being perceived externally and getting external validation. I think I was so tied up to being externally validated by my peers that I'd be like so afraid to post things, or I'd post one thing and then it'd get like 20 likes, and you know, in the past I'd get like 1,000 likes and like hundreds of retweets, and it felt very bad to you know, put myself out there. So I don't know, I think for me it's like just you kind of have to shut out what people think about you and just believe and know that you're on that path to doing what you want to do. You know, I don't know. Are you affected by like that kind of thing? By like how people perceive you and
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh geez. Back in the being in games media. Back when games media was not what it is today, which is falling apart, unfortunately. And kind of the beginning of like the content creator influencer thing, I had to be accessible to our audience, because if you were accessible to your audience, that brought eyeballs, that brought clicks, that made line go up, and that was like that was the cachet, that was the thing that pulled you in. And I only made it I made it less than a year as an influencer because I fucking hated it, because I didn't like being perceived. I wanted to go create in my hole and then spit it out and then like walk away. And so now as a dev, like I'm not very active on social media. Like I don't use Twitter. I don't use Facebook. My other like Instagram is like friend photos and stuff. And then I only really use Blue Sky to for business stuff. So like sharing job opportunities or this or that or whatever. But I don't interact with my audience as much as I interact with my gaming community. And I know in my gaming community, even if I fuck up, someone will be like, hey, you fucked up. Like let's do better next time. Whereas I feel like maybe in the wider audience community, it could be a little less forgiving. So I don't really interact. Like I trust my community, but I don't really interact with the wider kind of world and the perception, because at the end of the day, I feel like for every one person who posts something negative about your game or you or whatever, there's like 50 people who are not posters who just played it and liked it and then moved on with their life.
I know those people are nuts. The people who love being like, and they're trying to be helpful sometimes. They're like, oh, I'm letting you know about this, but it's like psychologically messed up that you felt the need to tell me about something I did wrong. You know what I mean? Like there's something wrong with like that kind of person.
Just let me go. Let me fuck up. Let me go.
Yeah. It's definitely like speaking more about the person who's commenting than on me, and that was something I did not encounter until I started posting my daily TikToks, because like you, I'm also like, you know, for the longest time I was just very offline. I'm like, I can't simultaneously promote my video game while developing it. I just don't think
you got to pick one.
You can't do that. Yeah. And social media is just lies anyway. So
social media is not real. What you see on social media is not real.
Yeah. And it's not even just games. It's just people. You know, like the way I look on social media, that's like, could be a filter. It could be like tons of makeup. Like, you know, it's just everything is like curated. And you know, the person who perceives it like might just see that. But anyway, getting exposure to like the strange people out there who feel the need to type out every little thought that comes into their mind, like that's very interesting and maybe unhealthy to look at. And I think like just updating you about that process, it's like, wow, I do feel like it's harder for me to respond to even friends online. Like sometimes when I look at just like any sort of message, I'm like, I can take a moment and I don't have to like respond right away. And I feel like, but sometimes I'm like, right now I'm in this process of like, but then I just don't respond, period.
Yeah,
because
it just
I'm
flies
like
away
so
and it's
used
gone.
to like not responding to like the randos on Instagram who are like leaving like kind of mean things, and I'm like, oh, I have to train myself to not give a shit. But then I do that to like people that maybe I should be like, you know, connecting with. So I'm in the process of figuring that out.
It's fascinating you say that, because you are also, you've already mentioned it, on a quest to post every day until the game sells 1 million copies, which is kind of like, how do you balance the like, which is clearly like a cool marketing move. So how do you balance this like, I would like you to perceive my marketing move, but then stop after that? Like where is your like guardrail for that?
I mean, I really think it's selfish. Like I'm doing it just for me. I really, and also like it's a joke. Like
it's a good joke.
Obviously, I don't. I personally don't think it's gonna happen. I mean, I think I'm gonna be doing this when I'm like 90 years old. You know, like that's in my mind. I'm like committed to that. You know?
Day 5,000
exactly. Like I'm so excited to like be a grandma and like. But at the same time, I think doing this is learning how to just have this be part of my life. You know what I mean? Like it's changed so much from day one and like prior to posting, like every single day. It's like, cause I don't know, like when I got funding for Consume Me, we didn't like short form video was like fine, and I didn't care about that. You know, it wasn't like Instagram stories, it wasn't TikTok. So when I like returned and had to like be marketing this video game and kind of be publicly perceived, I was like, wait, video editing? That's like a whole different wheelhouse. It demands so much more than making an Instagram post or posting a GIF, you know? I feel very lost in like even communicating to people out there. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like short form video, it's like, it's a whole different set of like putting yourself out there. And I like knew I had to acclimate to that. And I think in the very beginning, it's like, oh, you're so worried about, or for me, I was like very worried about how I was going to be perceived. You know, I didn't even feel comfortable speaking in front of the camera. You know, I was like wondering, oh, should I script everything? But if I script everything, then it's going to sound super rehearsed when I say it, or I'd have to spend like hours rehearsing the same thing. And I didn't want to commit to that, you
Yeah.
know, because I was making a video game at the same time. Like social media is not my only job and it isn't the only thing I want to get good at, but it felt
Yeah.
like something I
Had
needed
to
to
do.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also had to do. So I guess, I don't know, I guess in the whole scheme of things, I don't know, I kind of treat posting a TikTok every day like going to the gym. Like,
Oh, okay.
like, you know how you just have to show up some days
you just have to show up.
when you don't want to, and maybe like while you're there, it actually gets better, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, maybe like talking in front of the camera and just sharing your thoughts, it's like just showing up. And the
Yeah.
more you do it, the more you have a knack for what to say and how long to share for. And I don't think I'm naturally good at this, okay? Like I think I'm actually very quite bad at like being on TikTok and like talking in front of the camera. But I don't know. I also feel like people should do things they feel uncomfortable doing to
Yeah.
learn. You know, so much of making this freaking video game was forcing myself to do things that I didn't naturally have talent or, you know, desire for. You know, because like
Yeah.
for the big picture, and especially if you're working on like working on a small team or working by yourself, you have to do all the roles, you know? Like, yeah, you can, if you have a huge budget, you can pay everyone else. But if you don't have that budget, right, and you're like us, right, and you want to save money because you don't know when this video game is going to come out, then you have to step into those job roles.
Yeah.
And maybe you're shitty at them. And that's what I learned. For the next game, I would probably like to hire someone who'd be doing this social media stuff for me because they'd probably be doing it way better. But I am learning enough to be like, wow, this is really a job. And I'm not talented at it, but I'm still doing it because I am learning stuff from doing it, you know? So
That's incredible.
I don't know. Yeah.
Wow.
What do you mean? Wow.
No, just that's, but you're doing so much. Like you both have to make the game and then kind of like, and we see this a lot with smaller developers. You have to make the game and then you're also the person pushing the game.
Yeah.
And it's like so different from like, again, being in like, you know, the AAA death spiral where it's like, here I made this thing and then like the marketing teams like trot away with it and like do whatever. And you don't like, I don't see how my audience interacts with the promotional stuff for the games I work on unless somebody like sends me a nasty tweet or something. Like I don't get any of that feedback, but it's just you.
Yeah.
You are on the front line for everything.
Yeah. But it's nice to get that information because I think that's how you build a picture of like the big picture in your mind. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you want to make something big again and you don't have all the resources out there, you better have some idea of how everything works, you know? And it's like, and yeah, I think I'm doing it kind of for educational purposes. Like I don't think I'm really doing it to build a huge following, but it's like, wow, like just getting exposure to it is so valuable. And I think that's how you learn. And I think that maybe is one of the good things about being indie. It's like you get that freedom to try shit. Like, you know, no one's gonna fire me.
No.
Hopefully not. You know?
You can't. I mean, unless you fire
like,
yourself.
Exactly, which might have already happened. But like, you know, but you know,
no, I do.
Yeah, it's like, oh, if you're indie and you don't have a boss to like report to, then why not try weird shit? Like isn't that the whole point of being experimental and like pushing the boundaries and like seeing something and letting things mess up? Because if you don't let yourself mess up, are you going to really learn anything? You know, like
exactly.
Like failure is like what pushes you to grow. And I think that's also why I love ballet so much, is because I don't have a dance background, you know, like I was just sitting in front of a computer all day and like I found self-worth through making art, you know, and art used to be my hobby. And then I was
then you monetized it.
Exactly. And then it's like that. Then I felt like I was in jail again. I was like, oh no, time to get validation by posting my side projects, you know? And it's like, that's like the word. I think that's when you die as an artist as well. Like when you just feel like you're like serving to your boss, like, and your boss might not be your actual boss, but it could also be yourself and your own expectations. So I think like finding freedom and just being able to screw up again and being able to be a beginner again is one of the best feelings. And I think when it comes to learning something, right? Like I got this feeling a lot when I was making indie games, right? When I was starting out and being a noob, you know, you grow so fast when you're starting to learn a new skill.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, that feeling, right? And I think that feeling starts plateauing the longer you've been in that field. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
you feel that way about like making stuff. It's like in the beginning when you started doing game jams, it's like, wow, like I'm making a lot of amazing things. But then like you're a senior, you know, like me, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't actually, I feel like the progress I'm making is incremental. Like you can barely see that line budge, you know? So that's
Yeah.
why I was like, oh, I want to do something that's really scary, like ballet, you know? I don't really know I don't even know what a dance class is going to be like, you know? But like just putting myself in
Yep.
there and like being scared, like that's a good feeling I think anyone should chase. You
yeah,
know?
it's
Yeah.
so interesting that you chose a physical activity
Oh, yeah,
to be your outlet, because I did the same thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
chose powerlifting.
Oh yeah.
So like lifting big ass weights off the
Yeah.
ground, and like, am I the best at it? No.
Yeah.
Am I decent at it? Sure.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because I think that the beauty of something like that is like, you don't have to be good. Like, this is the thing you have to be good at, because
Yeah.
it's the thing that's paying the bills, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
your
yeah.
art, and obviously you have that worth tied to it.
Yeah.
But like, it's so nice to have something that you can be decent or not good at.
Yeah.
That's just for you.
Yeah. And then I think you're right about, I don't know, maybe when you turn 30, like a lot of people just start running or like start doing some kind of physical thing. But like, yeah,
I hate
think,
running.
oh yeah, I mean, I'm
No
not going
running.
to do that. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. But you know, like something that is not being in front of the computer and turning
Yes.
off your brain. Like I'm
Yes.
sure there's that aspect in powerlifting where you're just there and you're just focused at the task at hand.
Yep.
That's what I'm imagining.
Pick it up, put it down.
And then you just give it your all probably. And it's like, that's such a good feeling.
yeah.
And it's so opposite to, I think, creative work, creative digital work, where it's very like, I don't know, you could just overthink like endlessly.
Yeah.
And the more overthinking you do, the more messy and bad it gets, you know?
I
So
agree. I
yeah.
agree. I want to, you kind of mentioned this, and I
Yeah.
want to kind of like hop back to that.
yes.
As all of this is going on, you were also having a really crazy funding journey.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, again, so many people seem to think like, oh, we got funding, game is funded, all right, we'll finish it and it's good. But you had a very different experience. And that experience, I think yours, I will ask you to retell it for the folks
Yeah.
at home, but your experience is actually more in line with what I have heard from folks is, oh, we got funding. Not quite. Shit, we got to get across the finish line, or something happens, or something breaks. I know the dispatch guys went through this
Yeah.
as well, and it was very harrowing for a while. So,
Wait, can you remind me what happened to them? like
oh,
what? Yeah.
they got like similar to
Yeah.
you. There was an initial round of funding, and they were like, cool, and then they needed more to finish it, or I forgot exactly. I did an episode with Nick Herman. You guys at home can go back and reference this for better than I can, but he said that, you know, they were working with like a publisher, and then the publisher dropped them, but they retained the IP so they could still make it. But then that required like a large amount of sacrifice and like doing things like, you know, I remember last year at this conference, Pierre Charette, love you, Pierre, was here running around showing it off to get the last round of funding. And I remember him being like, I don't know if this game is going to come out. I don't know if I'm going to be homeless in like a couple months. Like, it was really, really harrowing. And obviously, happily ever after, they're going to be okay. But the funding journey for indie is not linear.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like my experience is definitely not like that. I feel, once again, I do feel really fortunate about our funding journey, even though, yeah, I do live in a disgusting tiny little apartment. But but I guess we never really had that kind of like, oh my God, like we have no money left and I'm going to end up like I've never been in that sort of situation. I guess our struggle was more like, okay, we're just going to pay ourselves extremely little. We're going to pay ourselves like $2,000 a month and then just keep paying ourselves that tiny amount until we finish the game. And it has worked out for us. I don't know. I don't know if that, I don't think I recommend that. And I probably sound insane for living this way and probably am like judged by a lot of people. But I don't know. We never ran into that nightmare of like,
Good.
okay, the bank account is zero and we need to go find some people and ask for more money. And another thing that I didn't disclose during the talk, but I think is public knowledge, is that we did get a diversity grant from Sony of I think it was $200,000
Great.
to finish the game. And that was also so incredibly helpful. And allowed us to like hire Kelly and Violet to like finish off the rest of the game. But as for, I don't know, we've never been in that kind of like hot seat of like, oh my God, like, yeah.
Hooah.
So yeah, I don't know if that's super helpful.
No. It is. Because I feel like, again, when you talk to someone outside of the industry and they're like, oh, you're a game developer, like you make game dev money. And I'm like,
oh,
what does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
None of us make game dev money unless you're like the dude at the top of the food chain. And again, I feel like a lot of us come to game dev for art because we want to be here.
Yeah.
And so it's like, not really. I mean, I'd like to pay my bills and eat, but
yeah, that's basically it. I eat the same thing all the time. Like,
oh yeah. Me too. Can I ask a little bit of a weird question?
Go for it. Yeah.
Has your mom played the game?
I think she played a little bit of it. And I think she played enough of it to kind of understand, like, and support me.
Okay.
But she's not a gamer, so I don't think she played that much of it. And I play tested it with my dad, who does not like to read. So he was just like skipping through the text bubbles.
What did
he's just like, oh, like time for the mini game.
The narrative designer's nightmare. Yeah. Oh my God, just skipping all the text.
Yeah.
What did they, I'm curious to know, like, what if they had any, like, anything to say about it? Because again, like, there is a lot of you in Consume Me.
Yeah.
And obviously, your mom's nagging you for a majority, very, very blatantly, like, my friend's daughter's skinny, why aren't you skinny? Like, what was that like?
Oh, I don't even know if I should say this on camera. Okay, like you can decide if you want to take this out. But like, honestly, my younger brother had it way worse and he ended up getting hospitalized. Like,
oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he's a lot better now and he's doing so much better and so much more stable. But for a period of time, it's like they weren't really focused on me. They were like dealing with him. So I feel like in comparison to what they were focused on, it was more like you can kind of do whatever you want. Like,
is he okay now?
Yes, he's good. He's doing so
God.
much better now. I know, yeah, but yeah, it's kind of like this weird double-edged sword thing. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. You can cut that out if you want.
No. We're keeping it. I was just so curious because again, I feel like, I know many of us put ourselves, our families, our traumas into our art, but we always, I mean, from a writer, just purely writer standpoint, we veil it with, metaphor, and we can like, put it in a character that doesn't look like the person who traumatized us or whatever, and we can kind of put these barriers in between it so it's not obvious. But Consume Me is so very much just like, here's me. This is what happened. I
don't know. I think it's because I don't know. I think part of it was just like how my life panned out. I think I'm like someone who does not have like a huge group of people that I'm around. Like, once again, I don't work in an office. I don't feel like I have to care about who is perceiving me. I have my close friends, like my loved ones, and I know they accept me for me. And then I have the rest of everyone else. And I'm like, okay, like if you spend a lot of time thinking about what's wrong with me as a person, then you're wasting your time, And most people just spend a lot of time thinking about themselves. Like, at the end of the day, everyone is just concerned about how they appear. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah. So who cares? If it, like talks too, I just kind of feel like you should just try to say what you want to say, or like make people laugh, because like if it's a boring talk, they're just gonna like be looking at their phone, or like if it's a bad TikTok, they're just gonna scroll ahead. And if they do want to like fixate on you, there's something psychologically wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like if you're like really like honed in on like hating this one person, I feel like that's a reflection of your own internal like state and what's like you're dealing with something, So I just kind of feel like, you only have one life to live, and I don't know, at the end of the day, like not that many people are thinking about you. Like,
I think we could all use that reminder. Not that many people are thinking about you, which is actually quite liberating.
Yeah. Yeah.
when you put it that way. I read a previous interview of yours where you talked about this, how Consume Me became less personal as
Yeah.
you brought more people on board and how you had to let go of parts of it to others.
Yeah.
How do you, mentally, like, when you are giving away those parts, obviously, hiring people who do other disciplines. In your talk, you mentioned how you had some people end up with like 4 different jobs,
Yes.
against their will, becoming a producer
Yeah.
on this project. So how do you prepare to give away those parts of, your creative vision to someone else who will help you execute it, but also are bringing some of themselves to the table? Like, what is that mentally like?
I think this is also like something, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. It's like growing, and it's obviously very scary. And I fought it initially, right? Because I don't know, I'm a really stubborn person. And even when AP was like joined, like in the very beginning, I think like there was still, I wish he was here. I wish I could like ask him because he has a better memory than I do. Like, like there's friction, and it's like I think I fought a lot with him about like, I don't know, like deep down I think I do micromanage, but I think the more I spend time working with him, the more I'm able to just trust him or whoever I'm working with to be like, no, like you got this. But I do think I have a tendency to be like, oh, I have this very specific thing in my mind and I want to do it this way. And thank God, I think we do have like a strong rapport that we do understand how to not step, to step on each other's feet, But it was like, you kind of have to, like, you do end up annoying each other and you do learn from that. You know what I mean? You bicker. Like, I think like we bickered all the time and probably drove like the the other people at NYU nuts. Like, but I think that's just how you like learn how to work together, Like, and you have that trust that like, there's like a push-pull, And so you just have to demand because you don't know if they'll be like willing to do that thing for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like, can I try this thing? Like, can you put this idea in AP? And then he'd be like, no, like, it's not a good thing. But then I'd keep bringing it up, for like a month. And he'd be like, okay, fine. So I think like there's this, like, that's collaboration to me sometimes. It's just like, you have to fight for those ideas if you believe in them, and then the other person might not be receptive, but then you chip away at their like at them, not to be like toxic or anything, but then and eventually you find like a middle ground. I don't know if that also answered it.
It did.
Is that it? Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm like escaping, but wait, what was the overarching question? It was like
letting go
of
parts of the project as the project became more personal as you brought more people on. So the process of letting go.
I think actually letting go was easy. Like once I realized that like I didn't have to do that work and that the person who was doing the work is like so much more competent and better at it. Like I was like, yeah, I'm happy. But I think before that point, it was like a little nerve-wracking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I think I actually find it easy to let go of things. Yeah. I don't know.
Why do you think people are, because again, one of the big points from your talk yesterday is hire people that are better than you. You will learn from them.
Yeah.
I feel like, maybe I'm like telling on myself a little bit here, but like, I feel like I've encountered the opposite where I have come into situations where I'm watching people actively not, like, they don't want to hire someone who could challenge them or who maybe was like a little bit better than them at something. It's very much like a AAA problem, I think. And I think it's a male AAA problem, but this is not this show. We'll talk about that somewhere else.
Yeah.
Where there's like it's like there's like very, in the larger your organization gets, you have a lot of hierarchy and you have cross-disciplinary collaboration, but you don't have individuals who serve multiple functions. Everyone is highly specialized and kind of like in a silo. So like, what would your biggest, like, I guess, piece of advice, or what would you say to someone who maybe is hesitant to take that advice, hire someone who's better than you? Like, what is that value add?
I'll flat out admit I'm an insecure person. Like and in the realm of art, like I was definitely very insecure about because like in my head, right, prior to hiring Kelly, I was just like, oh, but like I don't know, art is my role. Like, who am I going to be if they do art that's better than me, you know? And yeah, like, I don't know if those people that you're referring to have that mindset, but this is how you get better at something.
Uh-huh.
You have to surround yourself with people that you fucking admire, because otherwise you just stay the same. And then they're still going to get good, you know? It's not like they're not going to like get good. So you got to drop the like me versus them competition, you know? The best thing is like you and it's like this is like disgusting to say, but it's like probably this internal thing that you have with yourself where you're like, oh, I must feel like I have to be better than them in my mind, you know? But that is like also extremely self-limiting and deadly. Like to you, to everyone around you, you know, like stay humble, you know? Like
yes.
Like stay you know, and that's how you get good, you know? Like
yes. Stay humble to get good. Like
it's not that complicated, you know?
Yeah.
But it's funny because I do feel like it can be a personality thing. And I don't know if everyone realizes it, but maybe if you hear it and just be like, admit, like, no, there are things I can learn. And the best way to learn is to surround myself with people who are excellent at that already, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like,
I want to like crochet that.
Yeah.
Stay humble.
Yeah.
To get good.
Yeah. That's how you get good.
Yes. You have an award show to get ready for, so I'm going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
And it's about the title
All right.
of the game. Consume me.
Yeah.
Like obviously we can see the connection with the word consume, but it's consume me.
Yeah.
So how did you choose this title?
So, in the final chapter, you know how I got into like Christianity and everything? I'd like go to church every single Sunday because I was having like a mental breakdown every single week. And I got really into the music there because it was like this Australian church that is now canceled.
Oof.
Yeah, it's like, it's insane. But they had like this whole like rock band set. Like there'd be like performers who would go on stage and then like you'd sing for like 45 minutes. And I remember getting like very emotional when we sang the songs. And there was this one song that had the lyrics consume me. And I like that song a lot. And that's actually where I got the title from. And I feel like it just ended up fitting a lot of the other themes in the game, like how the game is autobiographical and about food and about being consumed by perfectionism and obsession. So I don't know. It's like a kind of funny little random story.
I like that though. That's really cool. Congratulations on everything you've won so far. And I'm sure tonight will be a great night for you as well. Thank you so much for being so candid with me. This was so lovely. I feel like we could talk for hours.
Yeah.
So this was so nice.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I hope I didn't give anyone the ick or anything.
No, I feel like you dropped so many like beautiful little pearls of wisdom here.
All right.
I feel like I need all of them just like crocheted or on a t-shirt or something. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.